Yo, what is good everybody? It's your boy Tej, and in this video I'm gonna be showing y'all how to make a hard beat for Lil Baby and EST Gee. I made the beat from scratch, so I'm gonna be showing y'all my whole process of making the sample and flipping it. If you're new and you enjoyed these types of videos, be sure to hit subscribe. As always, I'll have the finished beat played at the end of the video, so be sure to stick around for that. With all that out of the way, let's just hop right into the beat. So before I hop into breaking down each melody, I'm gonna show y'all what the finished sample sounds like. Alright, so starting off with the first melody, I opened up this piano preset in Keyscape and I put in my first piano pattern. At first glance, it mainly just revolves around these two notes right here, D sharp and A sharp, which are the 1 and 5 in the key, and the key that I'm using in the MIDI is D sharp minor. And for this, I'm pretty much using all the notes in the D sharp minor scale except for C sharp, which is the 7th note. A lot of dark sounding beats use this half step gap between two different notes that fit within the key. So kind of just using the D sharp minor scale, I constructed a pretty repetitive bassist melody here. As you can see, it's practically just the same two measures just copied over for the full 8, and even the first and second measure don't look all that much different. And once I had that really basic bassist melody, I just threw on this top melody right here. Again, this is just using D sharp and A sharp, the 1 and 5 in the scale, and then just using these half steps for adding tension. So for effects on that first piano, I just put a low cut EQ to cut out some of the key noises, and then I just put a limiter on it just to compress it or like equalize all the sounds. This could probably be done equivalently or better with a compressor, but for me, using a limiter is just the easiest thing to do. So now hopping into the second pattern, it's using the same Keyscape preset as before, except I just have my bass notes here. The bass notes are pretty simple for beats like this. You're usually just gonna start off with the first note in your scale, so in this case it's D sharp, and then from the first note in your scale, you're going to move it down by 4 or 5 half steps. In this case, I chose 4, which lands us on B, or the 6th note in the D sharp minor scale. And then for the 8th measure, I put in C sharp or the 7, just to lead it back into D sharp. For my next melody sound, I opened up this commercials synth key sound from this Paramnesia analog lab bank. I hope I said that correctly. And with this, I just wanted to make like a repetitive synth or pad pattern just to kind of layer with the original bass piano melody that we have. This pattern really heavily revolves around D sharp and A sharp, or the 1st and the 5th notes in the scale. And that stays true here. The only exception is that we just have a B at the end to kind of build tension back into our resolve, which is the 1 and 5. Other than that, I think the pattern's pretty straightforward. So for the effects I put onto that sound, I put an RC20 with the Lush and Crunch Guitar 2 preset, adjusted the distortion, space, and magnetic knobs. Then I just put halftime on it with the default settings and turned this mix to 89%. And then I just put on another EQ2 to cut out some of the lows that we had from the halftime. And for my next melody sound, I went into Contact and I got this string ensemble preset from the Orchestra Complete. I went in and put this MIDI right here. It looks a little all over the place, but if you look in closer, you can kind of see that it closely reflects the original pattern with just some slight adjustments here and there, and just having some extra notes in to counter some of the other sounds that we have so far. And for effects on the strings, I opened up another RC20 and put on the Vinyl 3 preset. I turned off the noise and wobble, and I just adjusted some of the parameters in these 3 knobs right here. And for my last melody sound, I added this Growler Moog bass preset from Omnisphere, and I just put in a MIDI that similarly follows the bass notes for the piano. and I also left that sound dry in the mixer. And so once I had all that, I arranged the stems accordingly and rendered out the whole loop as a WAV file. I put it into a new project file and manipulated the stems and arranged the final melody, added the drums, and completed the beat. And the only change that I made is I pitched up the loop to E minor. So now let's hop into the drums. The first sound that I put in was this clap. And I put in my clap pattern. It closely kind of resembles a normal third beat clap pattern, and the only significant difference is just adding the different accents. And I've done this in a couple of my recent beats where I put in the accent note on the end of the first beat and then just shift it over by half a beat. Next, I put in this hi-hat. For the most part, you can kind of see that it just follows a two-step pattern, but I did add a few rolls here and there, and I tried to pitch some of these lower ones a little lower. That way they were more pronounced in the rest of the mix. They didn't get drowned out too much by some of the other elements of the drums or the overall loudness of the beat. I believe for all the rolls, I used the 1/2 step snapping under the green magnet. And for the hi-hats at like the end of the 4th and the 8th measures, quantize those to the 1/3 beat snapping, or the triplet hi-hats as some people call them. And this is so that they hit at the same time as the snares and the 808s do. Next, I added this rim just to kind of accent the snare and other drum sounds. And then I added a snare again just to kind of do the same thing. And then I added my snare pattern, and this pattern follows my normal sort of pattern where I just have my bassist notes here and then just add in some rolls. And so for these rolls right here, I believe I used the 1/2 step snapping, and then for these I used the 1/3 beat snapping. And next I put in my open hat sound on the second beat of all the even measures, and then we just have this accent on the end of the 4th beat of the 3rd and 7th measures. And lastly, I put in my 808 pattern. This is one of the main elements of the beat that gives it that signature Lil Baby or EST Gee type of sound. For the most part, again, it's just following those bassist notes and then just added a couple of different accents here to make it a little more interesting. And similar to the snare and the hi-hat, I have this triplet roll here at the end, and it kind of goes far up into the octaves. And I also have this reverse 808 right here, and just use the paintbrush tool and the 1/4 step snapping to paint it in, and then just slope up your velocities so that the 808 notes gradually get louder. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you all enjoyed the video and you're able to take something away from it and find it helpful. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, be sure to hit subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to see next in the comments below. And that's all for me. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.